LG has seen the launch of 3 mid-range additions to its Q series last July as the mobile company aims to pick back up after the less than stellar sales of the LG G6 last March and released a stripped-down version of its flagship phone. Nevertheless, is the G6 just as equally great as its older sibling? Is this the phone for you, and is it worth its price? Hey guys, this is Liz from ManilaShaker.com, and today we'll be tackling the LG Q6. Dubbed the Mini G6 after its bigger predecessor that was released just last March, the LG Q6 has a medium-sized 5.5-inch IPS LCD display covered in Corning Gorilla Glass Display 3, which is nearly found in most Android phones today. What makes the Q6 stand out is the high resolution in such a tiny device, where LG somehow crammed an astounding 2160 by 1080 resolution display, which is further powered by the Adreno 506 graphics card. I noticed the difference just by staring at the Q6's home screen. The tiniest details in HD images seem clear and crisp, which is something you don't see very often in a compact-sized phone. Unfortunately, the Q6 is not water or dust resistant, unlike most phones in today's market, which I hope LG would add in future releases. With its metal unibody and curved edges, the 149-gram Q6 feels just right when it sits in your hand, although it does wobble a bit when you set it down. However, we discovered that its back casing is easily prone to attracting both fingerprints and scratches, so if you're planning to get one, you really might need to consider getting a physical case for it. Unlike most phones nowadays that use physical fingerprint scanners for security, the Q6 has none of that unlike its G6 predecessor and relies on facial recognition instead to unlock your phone. We discovered that the facial recognition feature doesn't work as effectively as it should when you use it in the dark though. Found on the upper portion of the Q6's front panel are its 5-megapixel front camera single lens and LED flash on either side of the earpiece. Its left side contains the physical volume buttons, along with the micro SD and dual SIM slots, which are only removable through the use of a SIM pin, while its right side has the power button. The Q6's function keys are found on screen, so you can only use them while the device is on. As for the back cover, the 13-megapixel rear camera sits at the upper left corner of the Q6 with a flash placed on the right side of the lens. Overall, its curved edges and compact size feel just right for carrying around regardless of hand size. The Q6 has a 13-megapixel single-lens rear camera and a rather small 5-megapixel front camera, both of which possess f/2.2 aperture rates. With a higher aperture rate, however, this means that the Q6 wouldn't adjust well to low-lit environments. We noticed this when we tried taking photos of objects in the dark, where the Q6 took a while adjusting to the nearest light source it could find before it finally settled with one saturated color. Taking outdoor photos with the Q6 is pretty much okay, although the hues seem slightly darker, but just right. If you're also fond of gimmicky features and you're the type that likes taking photos without having to press something, the Q6 has the option of taking photos by saying words such as cheese or smile. We noticed that the Q6 responded pretty well when we tried saying cheese, though the Q6 doesn't always immediately respond to these names, and we found that you'd have to clearly say kimchi or cheese in a certain way before it finally takes your photo. The Q6 runs in Android 7.1 Nougat using Qualcomm Snapdragon 435 and uses LG's 1-year-old UI 5.0 Marshmallow interface, which you can still play casual games with, but it doesn't run high-performance games such as Injustice 2 quite smoothly, and the Q6 warms up a bit when you do so. Using the following benchmarking tools, we received these results in the process. Benchmarking results are pretty average at best, which isn't at all surprising with its processor. But if you're planning to use the Q6 as a phone and media viewer for everyday use and not for gaming consumption, LG's tiny device works quite well. The Q6 has a non-removable 3000 mAh battery, which isn't much of a surprise considering its size. Using our Manila Shaker battery rating, we can confirm that you can get 33 hours and 16 minutes out of the Q6 at most, which is a pretty small but decent amount for a phone its price. In terms of battery power, we measured the following results from the Q6 and compared its battery life to other competitors. Unfortunately, the Q6 does not support fast charging, but for a phone that doesn't have that feature, an initial charge of the Q6 from 0% to 100% took us 1 hour and 40 minutes, which surprisingly isn't that bad. The tiny Q6's speakers are found at the bottom half of the phone. Speakers placed at the bottom are usually ideal for viewing movies and videos, which I guess LG is banking for in tandem with its gorgeous display. These speakers, however, are not exactly spectacular, even for the purpose of viewing videos with a small screen. And even at maximum volume, the audio is not exactly as loud, which may pose a problem when you have to take phone calls in noisier settings. For casual listeners, the Q6 also has a 3.5mm headphone jack at the bottom left side of the device next to the micro USB port, so you wouldn't have to worry about getting the right earphones for it. The Q6 comes in 32GB worth of internal memory with 3GB worth of RAM, which you can expand up to 256GB with a micro SD card. Ultimately, despite losing the fingerprint scanner and dual lens present in its older sibling, the Q6 is pretty much okay if you're the type that's particular about the most minute details that you see in a phone under 15,000 pesos. If you want a simple phone that can give you that, and if you want a less expensive LG G6 without the fingerprint scanner and dual lens rear camera, the Q6 is a pretty good stripped down version of its more expensive counterpart. It may not be water or dust resistant, and its unibody still needs some sort of protection for it to look good all throughout, but it should satisfy you enough if you're looking for a good phone that can fit into your budget. Once again, this is Liz from ManilaShaker.com, and if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and check out our other reviews.